Hello everyone, my name is Marcus G. Welcome to my channel. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a like up. The One Chicago franchise shows are connected not only to each other, but to several other Dick Wolf shows. Dick Wolf has dominated the television landscape for the past several years. He has 3 successful franchises: FBI on Tuesdays, One Chicago on Wednesdays, and Law and Order on Thursdays, although the latest update for Law and Order. Organized Crime Season 5 includes its move to Peacock rather than airing as part of the Thursday night block. One Chicago consists of 3 shows that have each aired for at least a decade, although they have been plagued with cast turnover issues, and Chicago Med Season 10 recently confirmed several returning cast members. It is the only one of Wolf's 3 franchises that doesn't focus exclusively on police procedurals, as Chicago Med is a medical drama and Chicago Fire focuses on firefighters rather than cops. Although most of Wolf's other series are set in New York instead of Chicago, all current Dick Wolf shows are set in the same universe, and some shows have featured crossover appearances. The oldest One Chicago show led to the entire franchise. Chicago Fire is the oldest of the 3 One Chicago shows, so there would be no franchise without it. It premiered in 2012 to solid ratings, which have remained virtually unchanged over 12 seasons. Its popularity led to the creation of the first spin-off, Chicago PD, the following year, and Chicago Med followed in 2015. It also set the tone for the One Chicago brand by blending procedural storylines with stories about the main characters' personal lives. Although it is set in Chicago rather than New York, the Chicago Fire crew have been involved in crossover stories with Law and Order, as viewed twice. Both of these stories began with fires in Chicago that uncovered evidence of sex crimes in New York, which brought Benson and the rest of her team in to catch the perpetrator. Chicago Fire has also crossed over with its sister shows in the One Chicago franchise on 10 separate occasions, although it has not done so since 2019. Chicago PD is unique among police procedurals because it features an anti-hero who often crosses moral lines and engages in police brutality for the greater good. Sergeant Hank Voight originally appeared on Chicago Fire as an antagonist, a dirty cop who attempted to have Casey silenced when Casey fingered Voight's son for causing an accident that paralyzed a teenager while drunk. Voight was arrested for his part in this scandal, but was later reinstated as the head of the intelligence unit, making for tense relations between the police and fire departments on the 2 shows. The police and fire departments worked together when necessary despite the rough start. Voight also softened somewhat in later seasons, which has helped improve relations between him and Chief Bowden. With Bowden exiting Chicago Fire, there is an open question of how the new chief will navigate the relationship with Voight. Voight still engages in questionable behavior when he feels the circumstances warrant it, so the new chief will have to decide whether it's worth making an enemy out of him. Chicago Med originally had an extremely close connection. Will Halstead, who was the lead doctor on Med for its first 8 seasons, was introduced as Detective Jay Halstead's brother. Jay was supposed to be the more level-headed of the 2, while Will often did impulsive things in the name of helping patients and got himself into trouble. Will was nearly fired for breaking rules twice and resigned after he deliberately sabotaged or 2.0 to prove that the machine was unsafe to use during surgery. The Halstead brothers sometimes worked together, most notably during Chicago Med Season 4, when Will was working undercover to help the police catch a mob boss. During this season-long arc, Will provided medical care to the target while secretly funneling information to Jay, but felt bad about it and kept trying to get out of their arrangement. The storyline ended after Will's wedding to Natalie was derailed by his life being in danger. After its cancellation, the lead attorney headed to New York. Chicago Justice is less well known than the other Chicago shows because it only lasted 1 season. This series starred Philip Winchester as an idealistic state's attorney, Peter Stone, who was unaware of the bias the criminal justice system often had against people of color. He was often surprised when guilt or innocence weren't the driving factors in cases and had to question his moral standards when situations were less clear-cut than he believed. Dick Wolf often reuses last names in his various works, but the name Stone was not a coincidence. After Chicago Justice was canceled, Stone traveled to New York and worked as an ADA on Law and Order, SVU, for a season, during which his backstory became prominent. Stone's late father was Benjamin Stone, who had been the ADA during the first 3 seasons of the original Law and Order, and Peter always felt like he couldn't measure up to his well-known father. On the surface, Law and Order, SVU, and Chicago PD seem to be polar opposites. Olivia Benson has always been depicted as highly moral. She goes the extra mile to help victims put their lives back together, but she doesn't support blatant rule-breaking or mistreatment of suspects. However, she and Hank Voight were attracted to one another while working together and considered a long-distance relationship afterward. SVU has worked with Chicago PD on several occasions, and a young woman who joined Voight's unit after living on the streets was killed by a serial murderer wanted both by PD and SVU. Benson's interest in Voight isn't as surprising as it seems, considering the will-they-want-they nature of her relationship with Elliot Stabler. Stabler is also a hothead prone to getting physical with suspects, though he is not as immoral as Voight tends to be. Benson also had a relationship with Chicago Justice's Peter Stone that ended when he realized his feelings for her could interfere with his objectivity and left his position. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe my fast gossip to our channel and stay with us.